This is you, sitting in a steel aircraft with no tail number, crossing a border that doesn't appear anywhere in your mission brief, carrying a weapon registered to a dead man's name. You have no family expecting you home, no address that connects back to your real face. Cleanest asset is the one with nothing left to lose, and no one left to mourn them. They told you that was strength, and for a long time, you believed them, because believing them was easier than understanding what they had actually done to you. The most dangerous thing in any operation is never the target. It's the instrument pointed at the target that finally starts to think. Welcome to the Black Program, where the word asset is just a sterile name for a man they've already buried. The briefing room has no windows, no clock on the wall, no name on the door you walked through 40 minutes ago. The recycled air tastes like metal and cleaning solvent, and the fluorescent light above the table hums at a frequency specifically calibrated to keep you alert, whether you want to be or not. There is no rank displayed on your jacket. The file on the table carries no name on its cover, only an alphanumeric designation that has served as your entire identity for the past 3 years. Wraith 7, clean, efficient, easier to delete than a real name. Your handler enters without knocking. He never knocks. He is a man in a pressed civilian suit who has never once set foot in a field operation. And the distance between his world and yours is exactly the distance between the person who loads the weapon and the person who pulls the trigger. He sits across from you and places a tablet flat on the table without looking up. The target is a logistics coordinator operating out of a port facility on the Adriatic coast, a man responsible for moving approximately $40 million in unregistered material through 3 NATO-adjacent jurisdictions. The mission parameters are clean on paper. Infiltrate, extract the routing ledger, disappear before dawn. Your operational team for this deployment consists of 2 assets you have never worked with before. You do not know their real names. You are not supposed to ask. Your handler slides the tablet toward you and states the extraction window, 40 minutes from point of entry. He says it without hesitation, without once checking the logistics map spread across the lower half of the screen. 40 minutes is not enough time, not for that facility, not with a single extraction vector and an unfamiliar team. You don't say this. You memorize the mission file, the grid references, the target profile, the 40-minute window that doesn't survive basic arithmetic. And you keep your eyes flat in your face, perfectly still. You are very good at that. Let's go back. You weren't always this. Before the designation, before the program stripped your life down to a file number and a psych profile, before the version of yourself that can hold a weapon with complete stillness and feel nothing at all, there was a different person living in a mid-sized city in eastern Germany, working a logistics analysis contract for a private security firm, paying rent on time, eating dinner alone. You were not remarkable on paper. That was precisely why they chose you. The recruiter appeared on a Thursday afternoon in a parking structure you no longer remember the name of. He was unremarkable looking. Medium height, clean jacket, the forgettable face of a man you would lose within 30 seconds of walking away. He said nothing about patriotism, nothing about country or cause or the words people use when they want to make you feel chosen for something noble. Instead, he mentioned a specific incident from 8 months prior. A situation in Bratislava where 3 men had cornered you in a stairwell, and you had put all 3 on the floor in under 20 seconds, then walked calmly to your hotel room and ordered room service. He said the program had been watching you for 14 months. Over the following 9 months, the sleep deprivation, the systematic dismantling of every attachment that gave you a reason to hesitate, the loyalty transferred from everything you knew to the program itself. You told yourself you were walking into it with clear eyes, that you could walk out whenever it stopped making sense. The first time you crossed a line you could not uncross. Your handler simply made a note on his tablet. No praise, no acknowledgement, just the quiet implication that this was always who you were going to become. You signed the document that officially declared your former identity deceased on a Tuesday morning. You pressed the pen into the paper, and your hand didn't shake at all. The Adriatic port facility smells like diesel, salt water, and rust. You move through the container yard exactly as the briefing prescribed. Low, quiet, precise. The target building sits at grid reference Delta 7, approximately 90 meters from the waterline. Cold air off the water cuts through your jacket. For 11 minutes, the mission runs perfectly clean. Then your secondary team takes a position that makes no tactical sense whatsoever. They drift 200 meters east, toward the service road connecting to the civilian port entrance. The wrongness of it registers the way all wrong things register. Quietly, without reaction, a cold count starting in the back of your skull. Your comms fragment, not from jamming. A selective cut, the kind requiring an authorization code that only one person holds. His channel stays open, just his. Your handler delivers new orders in the same flat tone he always uses. Abort the extraction. Hold position at Delta 7. Wait for the secondary team to re-establish contact. Hold position. At the location, the secondary team just deliberately abandoned, with a 40-minute window already counting down to 16. You say nothing into the mic. Then you feel it. Not a thought, but a physical sensation. Something cold moving up through your chest like a blade pulled slowly upward from the inside. The silence from the southern corridor isn't a communications failure. It's a perimeter. They are not lost. They are in position. They have been in position since before the aircraft landed. You were never the operator on this mission. You were the distraction. The visible asset placed at the most exposed point in the facility, while the real extraction happened somewhere else entirely, by someone the program trusted enough to bring home. You move. Through the maintenance tunnels running beneath the container rows, water smell and low machinery hum away from the position your handler is still transmitting to. His voice follows you all the way to the drainage outlet. Calm, operational, giving orders to an empty room. You don't run. Running is what the program trained into you. Extract, sanitize, disappear into the recovery protocol, but the recovery protocol is managed by the same handler who just left you in that facility to be collected. Instead, you surface in Vienna 48 hours later, in the back room of a private financial consultancy on Herrengasse that officially processes agricultural licensing. The man across from you is a former BND analyst who has spent the better part of a decade operating in the gray space between 6 intelligence services. He has brokered information that ended 2 governments and quietly saved a 3rd. He is not easy to find. You found him in 11 hours. He looks at you the way careful men look at things that shouldn't have survived. You don't ask for protection. You don't ask for extraction or a clean identity or passage to somewhere your handler can't reach. Those are the requests of a man trying to escape. You are not trying to escape. You place one document on the table, a routing architecture for $63 million in off-book program funding, moving through shell entities in Cyprus, Luxembourg, and a private banking channel in Liechtenstein. Not a leak, a demonstration, one precise piece of the total picture, offered freely to prove the rest is real. Then you lay out the logic, slowly, the way your handler once delivered mission briefs, because you learned from the best. The program's political patron signs every blank operational budget. Those signatures have been forged for 6 years. The oversight committee members whose names appear on every authorization filing have no idea those filings exist. The entire structure sits on a single vulnerability: simultaneous exposure to 4 people in 3 jurisdictions, who have both the authority and the long-standing motivation to use it. Your condition is precise. Not your handler's location, not his arrest, his complete and total exposure. Every operation, every name, everything. Death is too convenient a mercy for a man like that. The broker studies you for a long moment across the table. Then he slides a matte black access drive towards you and says nothing at all. You close your hand around it. The cold weight sinks into your palm like a key finally finding its lock. 3 weeks pass, then 2 months, then 4. You abandon the broker's network the moment you no longer need it. This happens sooner than he expected, and considerably sooner than he is comfortable with. You operate across 4 cities in rotation: Tallinn, Geneva, Nicosia, and one address in Warsaw that appears on no lease agreement anywhere. You move between them on documents that no existing system connects to each other or to anything that used to be you. It's your first month. You learn the program's architecture the way a demolitions expert studies a building, not to admire it, but to find the load-bearing points, the funding chains, the political authorization layers, the 3 oversight committee members whose signatures have been quietly forged on every budget extension for 6 years. You build a file on each of them that would end careers, void contracts, and trigger criminal referrals in 2 jurisdictions. and you keep those files on a drive that never touches connected network. You find the other discarded assets. Not to build a team, you have no use for a team. You find them because each one is a living witness. The program spent considerable resources trying to silence, and a living witness is worth more than any document you could manufacture. You acquire something the program never gave you and couldn't have: the ability to move through the financial and political architecture protecting men like your handler without ever appearing to move at all. The ability to make $63 million stop responding. The ability to ensure that the right documents reach the right desk simultaneously, in the right jurisdictions, on a morning of your choosing. Not a soldier's capability, something older. Something the program's designers never thought to defend against because they never imagined their instrument would learn to think like the men who built the cage around it. The broker calls once to ask how this ends. You don't answer. You no longer move like an asset. You move like something the program was designed to serve and has no category for. Your handler's private office occupies the 14th floor of a building in Brussels that officially houses a policy research foundation. The security on his floor requires a biometric credential and a rotating access code that changes every 6 hours. You are already inside when he arrives at 7:14 in the morning. He stops in the doorway. For exactly 2 seconds, his training takes over. His hand moves toward the protocol panel on the wall, the one that would trigger a silent alert to the security detail stationed 1 floor below. The panel is dead. You cut every channel in this building 40 minutes ago. He steps inside. He closes the door behind him, because that is what controlled men do when they are deciding how afraid to let themselves be. He looks at you the way your recruiter once looked at you in that parking structure, recalculating, searching for the variable he failed to account for. You place the access drive on his desk, then beside it, a single printed document operational index, every off-book asset, every political authorization, every name that has never appeared in any official filing. His name at the top of every page. His hands, when he reaches for the document, carry a faint tremor he cannot quite suppress. And that tremor tells you everything about the state of the position he believed was impregnable. You let him finish reading. You light a cigarette and set the match down on his desk, still burning. Then you tell him, very quietly, what happens next. Not death, not arrest. Something far more surgical. Every file, every channel, every witness, released simultaneously to the 4 people who have been waiting years for exactly this material. You taught me that an asset is only valuable while it can be controlled. You watch the smoke curl toward the ceiling. Congratulations, you built something you can't control. You walk out. The door closes behind you like a verdict being read. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens the way a structure collapses, silently first, in the places no one is watching, until the weight becomes impossible to hold from any direction. The financial routing goes first. $91 million in off-book program funding, frozen across 4 jurisdictions simultaneously at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday. Not seized, not flagged, simply stopped. The accounts don't close, they just stop responding, the way a phone stops ringing when someone on the other end has already made their decision. By mid-morning, the program's primary political patron receives a package at his private residence in The Hague. He does not leave the house that day. He does not make calls his own security detail isn't already monitoring. The witnesses surface by afternoon. 7 former assets across 5 countries, providing signed statements to investigators who have been waiting for precisely this material for the better part of 3 years. Every one of them simply ready. You made sure of that during the months no one could locate you. The Oversight Committee members are briefed by their own legal counsel by evening. The program loses its institutional immunity in 4 hours. You walk through the primary facility in Brussels at 9 p.m. The last remaining personnel are filing into controlled exit procedures or already gone. Not because you overwhelmed them, but because you made continuation structurally impossible. There is nothing left to defend. You place the access drive on the director's desk alongside one document, a complete record of every operation run under the Wraith designation. Every asset used, every asset discarded. You don't say anything. The machine has stopped. You stand in the silence of it. And somewhere below you, in the emptied building, a phone begins to ring. The building is empty. The machine has stopped. You have won. That feeling lasts for approximately 1 breath. The phone rings a second time. You look at it the way you have learned to look at all wrong things, quietly, without reaction, counting the variables. It is not your handler's people, they are finished. It is not the oversight committee, they have what they need and are already moving. You pick up. The voice is one you have never heard before. Calm, unhurried, completely without effect. The precise tone of a person who has had this conversation before and expects it to proceed in a particular direction. He doesn't identify himself. He doesn't need to. He simply tells you, in the flat language of operational briefings, that the work you've done over the past several months has been noted, at a level considerably above the program you just dismantled. He says they'd like to discuss a new arrangement. You stand very still. You open your mouth to decline. The words that come out are measured, precise, and empty of emotion. They are not the words of the person who stood in a parking structure in Eastern Germany and told himself he could walk away from any arrangement that stopped making sense. They are assessment words, calculation words, the words of someone already mapping the leverage a position like this would provide, and how to use it. Your own voice sounds exactly like your handler's. The access drive is still in your hand, its cold weight perfectly familiar against your palm. You look at your reflection in the dark glass of the director's office window, the empty building stretching behind you, the phone pressed to your ear, the face of a person who has stopped registering the temperature of the room they're standing in. You understand now what the program always understood and never told you. It doesn't matter who runs it. It doesn't matter who burns it down. The program doesn't die. It simply finds the most capable instrument available, and it waits. Your laughter, when it comes, echoes through the empty corridor for a long time. The most obedient weapon is always the one that doesn't know it's aimed at itself. You always knew. It didn't matter at all. If this made you think, subscribe for more.